Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj from Portugal.
Jai. Prema. Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Bol Maharaj, my obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
I'm so happy to see you too. Thank you very much for tuning in, Prema. Hare Krishna.
No, this is not Prema.
Oh. It's
this is Vijaya Krishna Das.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
From Portugal.
Very good to see you. Obrigado.
De nada.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Prema, are you here too? Maybe Prema will come back too. Good to see you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for tuning in from Portugal.
Yes, here we are.
Thank you.
Where are you?
Azores Archipelago.
Oh, very nice. And
St. Michael's Island, the biggest island of the archipelago.
Wow. And Prema, where are you?
We are in Argentina.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you for all.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Just a couple housekeeping notes. Please keep yourself muted during the kirtan, but you can definitely sing behind your muted mic. And during the kirtan, if we spotlight you, don't worry about adjusting yourself. If you don't wish to be spotlighted, you can just let us know.
Hare Krishna. Kirtaniyas, are you ready?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Udilo Aruna Purabhabage Dwijamani Gaura Amani Jage Dwijamani Gaura Amani Jage Bhakta Samuha Loya Sate Gela Nagara Braje Bhakta Samuha Loya Sate Tatai Tatai Bhajaloko Ghana Ghana Tahe Jajiraro Shivatsu, you can sing. Jajiraro Premi Dhala Dalasho Naranga Charani Purabhaje Preme Dhala Dhala Sonaranga Charane Purabhaje Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari Dina Gelo Boli Haibe Jivera Kalyana Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari Bolena Bolore Vadana Bori Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari Bolena Bolore Vadana Bori Chenidda Vashe Gelore Rati Divasa Sharira Saje Emanadulaba Manavadeho Payakikoro Bhavana Keho Emanadulaba Manavadeho Payakikoro Bhavana Keho Ebena Bajile Jashoda Sutta Charame Pori Belaje Ebene Bajile Jashoda Sutta Charame Pori Belaje Udita Tapana Hoile Asta Dina Gelo Bole Hoi Bepyasta Udita Tapana Hoile Asta Dina Gelo Bole Hoi Bepyasta Tabekino Ebe Alasha Hoi Na Bhajari Doyaraje Jai Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai Jivana Nitya Jana Hasa Thahena Vira Vipadaba Nitya Jana Hasa Thahena Vidha Vipadaba Namashaya Kori Jatane Tumi Taka Apanaka Je Namashaya Kori Jatane Tumi Taka Apanaka Je Jivera Kalyana Sadhanaka Jagate Asiye Madhuyana Jivera Kalyana Sadhanaka Jagate Asiye Madhuyana Abhidyatimira Tapana Rupe Hrid Gagane Viraje Krishna Nam Sudha Kori Apan Juda Bhakati Vinoda Pran Krishna Nam Sudha Kori Apan Juda Bhakati Vinoda Pran Nam Bina Kichu Nahi Ko Aro Chaudha Bhuvana Krishna Nam Bina Kichu Nahi Koro Choda Bhuvana Maje Jeev Jago Gaura Chandra Bole Jeev Jago Gaura Chandra Kota Nidra Jao Maya Pishachira Kote Kota Nidra Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Bhajiva Bholiya Eshe Shanshara Bhattare.
Bhajiva Bholiya Eshe Shanshara Bhattare.
Bhuliya rohile tumi abhijara bhare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Tomare loite an huinu avatara.
Tomare loite an
Ami bina bandhu aro ke ache tumara. Lord Chaitanya descended as an avatar. Who else but him as your friend? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Enechia Shaudhi Maya Nashi Barulagi. I brought the medicine to cure the disease, Maya. Harinam Mahamantra Lautu Mimagi. Harinam Mahamantra Lautu Mimagi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Bhakti Vinoda Prabhu Charane Poriya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur fell at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. She Hari Elo Magia. He begged for the holy name and he received it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol, Shri Hari Ram Sankertan ki, Shri Hari Ram Mantra ki, Shri Hari Ram Prabhu ki, Gaura Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Raga Stotra Shishima Hapai Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Raga Stotra Shishima Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. And now we'll do the Mangalacharna too, please. Actually, we could do it on Jamulus, no? Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Viditam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Śrī Caitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Adadhanastradandantaritam Dhyache Puna Puna Srimad-Rupa Padam Puja Tulisyam Janma Janmani Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namah Shreshtam Manamapi Shachiputram Atra Sarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Urupari Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratitakripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. He Guru Jnanada Dinabandho Swananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Sinahitavatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Prachara. He Dinabandho Karunaika Sindho Kuru Prasada Mai Mannamude Laksha Paradhe Bahupapagadhe Tatpada Padme Stumatishcha Krishne. Prata Shriman Navadvipe Dvinetram Dvibhujam Gurum Varabhaya Pradam Shantam Smaretan Nama Purvakam Tvam Gopika Vishradavestanayanti Kesi Sevadikarni Guru Nijapada Padme Dasyam Pradaya Kurumam Rajakanane Shri Radhangri Sevana Seva Sukhinim Sukhabdo Shri Guru Paramananda Premananda Palaprad Brajananda Pradhananda Sevayamani Yojaya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Tinamine Shri Varshabhana Videvi Daitaya Kripataye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namah Madhuryojjvala Premadhya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaurakishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padam Ujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchirananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virvava Bhomestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Kushe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratao Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvasva Padamboja Radha Madana Mohanao Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumata Srimad Ratnagara Sinhasanastao Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devao Prishtalibi Sevyamanao Smarani Shriman Rasarasaram Bhivam Shiva Tatatastita Karshan Venusvaner Gopir Gopinatha Shri Estuna 18 Thakur Godeyaki Karyachina Atmasad 18 Era Sharan Bandon Tine Moranad Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vande Nanda Vrajashrinam Gopada Renam Abhikshnasa Yasam Hari Kato Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam Antayam Adr Abala Haridasa Varyo Yadrama Krishna Charana Svarasha Pramodaha Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayostayo Yat Paniya Suyavasakandana Kandamulai Vrindayai Tulsidevyai Vriyayai Keshavascha Vishnu Bhakti Pradidevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Shrina Singha Jaina Singha Jai Jaindra Singha Pralada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Yada Yada Hitarmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Apyutanam Adharmasya Tadatmanam Srijamyaham Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Chajushkritam Dharma Samstapanarthaya Sambhavami Yuge Yuge Manmara Bhavamad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mami Vaishyasi Yukvaivam Atmana Matparayanaha Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tang Sarva Papepyo Mukshayishami Ma Shuchaha Shushusho Shradhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syad Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtana Shevana Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantaksto Hipadrani Fitunoti Suhrit Satam Nushta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Tadara Justamo Bhava Kamalobhada Yashaye Chaita iter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Vidyate hridaya grantishijante sarva sankshaya shiyante chasya karmani trishta evatmanishvare. Malihai karise bijarupan shravana kirtana jali kare shejan. Tahan vistarita hai pali prema pal ihan mali sheche nitya shravanari jal. Vairagya Vijanija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharta Meka Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariratari Krapambudhiryastamaham Prapadye Kalandashtam Bhakti Yogam Nijam Ja Pradushkartum Krishna Chaitanya Nama Avirabhutas Tasa Pararavinde Gadham Gadham Liyatam Chitabringa Ajanulambita Bujau Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Takshau Vishambaro Dvijavaro Jugatarma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakarao Karunavataro Chaitanya Krishna Chaitanya Gaurango Dvijanayaka Yatinam Dandinam Chaiva Nyasinam Chashromani Rakdambara Dara Sriman Navadipa Sudakara Preva Bhakti Pradashaiva Shri Sachinandanastata Nityanando Dodem Durvasuda Prana Ballabha Jadavi Jivatapati Krishna Prema Pradapahu Padmavati Sutta Shriman Sachinandana Purvaja Balvonmato Jagatrata Rakta Gaura Kalevaram Matsamona Sipapa Manaparadi Chakashtana Parihare Pilajame Kimbrule Purushottama Yivatinam Yata Yuni Yunam Cha Yuvatau Yata Mano Piramate Tadvan Mano Miramatam Twayi Puvaus Kalita Padanam Pumir Evam Balambanam Twayi Jata Paradhanam Twameva Sharanam Prabho Govinda Balabhe Radhe Prarte Twamaham Sada Twadiyam Iti Janatu Govindo Mam Tvaya Saha Radhe Vrindavanadi She Karunamrta Vahani Kripaya Nichapadam Cha Dasyam Mayam Pradiyatam Nitai Namine Che Namirhate Shadamulyanam Dite Chere Nitai namine che namerhate shadhamulyenam tite chere Nitai namine che namerhate shadhamulyenam tite chere Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama, Now we're continuing our reading of the Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta. And we're taking up where we left off at text number 41 of the third chapter of the Ādi-līlā. Tapta hema samakanti prakanda sharira navamhiga jinikanta dvani je gambira. The luster of his expansive body resembles molten gold. The deep sound of his voice conquers the thundering of newly assembled clouds. Dhargya vistare je apanara hata. Chari hasto hoye mahapurush vikyata. One who measures 4 cubits in height and in breadth by his own hand is celebrated as a great personality. Nyagroda parimandala hoy tar nam. Nyagroda parimandala tanu chaitanya gunadham. Such a person is called Nyagroda Parimandala. Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who personifies all good qualities, has the body of a Nyagroda Parimandala. No one, purport, other than the Supreme Lord himself, who has engaged the conditioned souls by his own illusory energy, can possess these bodily features. These features certainly indicate an incarnation of Vishnu and no one else. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a young man, as Nimai Pandit, and in Navadvip, he would walk down the street, people would turn to look at him spontaneously, as everything was perfectly in place. His Brahman's thread appeared to many to be the incarnation of Sheshanag, which it was actually, but it's all opulent, the body of the Lord, the form. And even when Keshava Kashmiri came to debate in Navadvip, the Lord had arranged it so that he would greet him before coming into the city, was sitting with his associates, was Nimai Pandit, who were very much enamored of him because he had already gone around and defeated all the other local pundits, and his erudition was unparalleled. When someone can speak with such articulation and whose memory is prodigious and who is completely conversant with all shastras and complete logic, it's very intriguing. What to speak of the beauty of Nimai Pandit. His hair, which devotees lamented for years afterward, they were so attached to his beauty when he took sannyas and he shaved his hair that people were crying. And still, the devotees who worship him in Navadvip, they pine for him. They don't want him to go off and take sannyas. They want to give him all comforts so he can enjoy his senses, because he's the supreme Hrishikesh. And when you please the Lord's senses, your senses become pleased. And they don't like to see him taking austerities or to not decorate his beautiful form, or that they can't decorate his form and so forth. So the form of the Lord is the attractive feature for the mind of the devotee. And when Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mandamaskuru, he says, bow down to me, become my devotee, worship me. You can't, as Krishna says in the 12th chapter of the Gita, it's very difficult to worship an impersonal form. It's nothing for the mind to grab onto or to be satisfied with. But because the Supreme Personality of Godhead has the most beautiful form, and he gives full permission for you to meditate on that form. In fact, he says, this is bhakti. This is the process. Think of me. What form will you think of Krishna? And if you go to Krishna's temples, one of the incarnations of the Lord in this world is the Archa form. It comes in the form of the deity. Krishna doesn't mind if you go and sit there all day long. In fact, I've done this in Vrindavan. You can go in and sit in front of Krishna Balaram, Shri Radhesham, and Gaudi Tai. Just, it's a hot day. You can sit on the cold marble and listen to the kirtan and just stare at the Lord all day, or as many hours as you can stay there. And it never gets boring looking at their forms. And the Lord never minds. He never says, don't look at me. Even in Mangalarti at Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, I noticed that devotees are mesmerized. They come in and they stand as close as they can, and some are hanging even on the railing in front of the altar, and they'll just stand there stupefied, just seeing the form of the Lord. So this is important because in many different processes of religion, we hear that God is the supreme, that he's almighty, he's all merciful, he has qualities and so forth, general qualities we hear about. But then when we ask, let's see his form, say, no, you can't see. It's not possible to see. Of course, in the Shastra, Vedic Shastra, it says, Atashi Krishna namadi na bhaved grayam indriye sevon mukhi jivado swayameva spuratyada. The way to see the Lord is to serve him, starting with the tongue. Then you can really see. And you'll notice if you do some tapasya for Krishna, then when you go before the deity, or you see his picture, or even if you chant his holy name, then he reveals more of his form, because Krishna says, Ye yata mam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamyaham mamavart manuvartante manusha partasarvasha. As you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. So, in the Bhagavatam, the demigods praying for Krishna in the womb, to Krishna in the womb, say, Yene ravindaksha vimuktamaninas, tvayasta bhavada vashudha budaya aruya krishna paramparam tata patantyata vanadirta yushmarangraya. Unless one comes to the point of developing a relationship with that personality of Godhead who has all senses. All senses are perfect. Anganiyasya sakalindri vritimanti. And enters into a relationship with him, then there is no liberation, actually. It's all in the mind that I'm liberated. But real liberation comes from here. So the Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta is introducing us to this form of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and now giving the descriptions of his bodily form. So those who are developing love for Krishna, they relish hearing of these features of the Lord. Just like in this world, if someone falls in love with another, then he or she will want to hear of the qualities of the beloved. Oh, what is she doing? What is she wearing? What does she look like? What is he? What are his features, his strong chin, and so forth? So similarly, when we're advancing in devotional service, these features become more and more attractive. And even if we don't have that attraction yet, by hearing them again and again, they begin to attract our minds. Okay. Ajanulambita Puja Kamalalochana Tilapula Jininasa Sudhamshu Vadana. His arms are long enough to reach his knees. His eyes are just like lotus flowers. His nose is like a sesame flower. And his face is as beautiful as the moon. Shanta Danta Krishna Bhakti Nishta Parayana Bhakta Vatsala Shushila Sarva Bhute Sama. He is peaceful, self-controlled, and fully devoted to the transcendental service of Lord Sri Krishna. He is affectionate toward his devotees, he is gentle, and he is equally disposed toward all living beings. Chandanera Angara Bhala Chandana Bhushana Dhritya Kale Pari Karena Krishna Sankirtana. He is decorated with sandalwood bangles and armlets and anointed with the pulp of sandalwood. He especially wears these decorations to dance in Sri Krishna Sankirtan. E Shab Guna Loy Mui Vishambhayana Sahasraname Koila Tar Nam Ganana. Recording all these qualities of Lord Chaitanya, the sage Vaisesika included his name in the Vishnu Sahasranam. Ādi-līlā Chaitanyera Ādi Shesh. Ādi-līlāya Chari Chari Nam Vishesh. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya have two divisions. The early pastimes, Ādi-līlā, and the later pastimes, Shesha-līlā. He has 4 names in each of these 2 līlas. Suvarna Varna Hemango Varanga Shanshanangari Sanyasa Krishama Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayana. In his early pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful, and his body, smeared with the pulp of sandalwood, seems like molten gold. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyas order, and he is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. Let's look at the words sarva, suvarna, of gold, varna, having the colors suvarna varna, hema anga, he whose body is like molten gold. Suvarna varna hemango. Varanga, varangash, chanjanangadi. Having a most beautiful body, vara anga. Chandana angadi, whose body was smeared with sandalwood. Sannyasa krit, practicing the renounced order of life. Shama, equipoise. Shanta, peaceful. Nishta, devotion. Shanti, and of peace. Parayana, the highest resort. In his early pastimes, he appeared as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful, and his body, smeared with the pulp of sandalwood, seems like molten gold. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyas order, and he is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. Purport: this is a verse from the Mahabharata Dana Dharma Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra, in his commentary on the Vishnu Sahasranam called the Namartha Sudha. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan, commenting on this verse, asserts that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the evidence of the Upanishads. He explains that Suvarnavarna means a golden complexion. He also quotes the Vedic injunction, Yada Pashya Pashyate Rukmavarnam Kartaram Isham Purusham Brahmayonim. Rukmavarnam Kartaram Isham refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as having a complexion the color of molten gold. Purusham means the Supreme Lord, and Brahmayonim indicates that he is also the Supreme Brahman. This evidence, too, proves that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Another meaning of the description of the Lord as having a golden hue is that Lord Chaitanya's personality is as fascinating as gold is attractive. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan has explained that the word varanga means exquisitely beautiful. Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas, leaving aside his householder life to preach his mission. He has equanimity in different senses. First, he describes the confidential truth of the personality of Godhead, and second, he satisfies everyone by knowledge and attachment to Krishna. He is peaceful because he renounces all topics not related to the service of Krishna. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan has explained that the word nishta indicates his being rigidly fixed in chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya subdued all disturbing opponents of devotional service, especially the monists, who are actually averse to the personal feature of the Supreme Lord. So here, the different aspects of his qualities are enumerated and given more specific meaning. So Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas, leaving aside his householder life to preach his mission, because he saw that it was unfavorable. People were taking him as an ordinary person and even making offenses, so he took the sannyas order in order to get respect from everybody, because he knew that they would benefit from that. So in that sense, it was utilitarian. Then he has equanimity in different senses. First, he describes the confidential truth of the personality of Godhead. So this is the product of the internal energy. The devotee, Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim ashrita bhajantyananya manaso gyadva bhutatim aviyam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the great souls are under the protection of my internal potency. And Krishna Shakti Vina Nahi Tar Pravartan. Only one who is empowered by the internal potency of the Lord, Krishna Shakti, can teach about Krishna consciousness. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches, because he's Krishna himself in the mood of Radharani, it's so satisfying because he's giving the knowledge for which we are always anxious. This is one of the translations of the Shikshashtakam, that through the Sankertan movement, through following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and hearing from him and chanting Hare Krishna, one comes to know that information that everyone's hankering for. It actually fulfills the innermost desire of the heart, hearing about the confidential truth of the personality of Godhead. And no one can do that but a devotee. And so when Lord Krishna comes as his devotee, how pleasing is that? Hearing the confidential truth of himself. And second, he satisfies everyone by knowledge and attachment to Krishna, which is there's a mistaken idea generally about spiritual life. One of the conclusions people often jump to is that spiritual life means the negation of the material world. However, it actually means enlightened engagement with the material world, because it's all Krishna's energy. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjita nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyamuchite prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vasuna mumukshabhi prityago vairagyam palgukatyate. The practical and real philosophy is that because everything can be used in Krishna's service, then when it is, it's transcendentalized. And when it's left behind as being useless, then that's called false renunciation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows this very practical way to use the whole world in Krishna's service. And Prabhupada, when he came to preach Krishna consciousness, showed by example how this was possible, even for those who came thinking it was something else. For instance, often the young people who first joined in 1966 and 7 said, okay, I'm going to quit my job. And Prabhupada said, no, keep your job. And they were very surprised. You keep working and you give the money to help expand the Krishna consciousness movement. First of all, many young people couldn't have stayed engaged fully. And second of all, he proved through this engagement that everyone should do what is most practical to help spread the Krishna consciousness movement. That way you become purified. Your senses become purified. Then, still continuing in that purport, he's peaceful because he renounces all topics not related to service of Krishna. That's important. And this shows that the way to become actually peaceful and happy is to renounce topics not related to Krishna. Baladev Vidyabhusan has explained that the word nishta indicates as being rigidly fixed and chanting the holy names of Sri Krishna. And if there's one thing to be fixed in life, one habit to develop, it's the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and staying fixed in the vow. Because if we can do that, then we'll overcome all the other obstacles that will inevitably come as we practice Krishna consciousness in this world, or just live in the world itself, which always goes sideways, one way or the other. Lord Chaitanya subdued all disturbing opponents of devotional service, especially the monists, who are actually averse to the personal feature of the Supreme Lord. And this was part of Prabhupada's mission, to overcome the monists and also atheistic scientists who say that everything comes from matter. And this is a great impediment to the world at large. And therefore, an acharya suffers when he hears that people are getting this misinformation. And therefore, he wanted all of his followers to understand the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and of Śrī Caitanya-Mahaprabhu, and then to go out and teach systematically how it is that everything comes from a person, and that person is our original conscious source. It's not that things come from matter, and also to challenge modern scientific theory. He didn't want us to be foolhardy and say, okay, because we're challenging the premise of science, we don't use anything that's produced by science. We appreciate what's been used by science, but we also understand the limits of science to understand or describe the absolute truth. And those who put their faith completely in science to explain the origin of life and so forth will be left unsatisfied and misdirected. So we're not fanatical in the sense that we discount everything science has done. We don't ride on airplanes or take modern medicine because we say, oh, it's coming from some demoniac source. But we do challenge the very basic premise, which is practically ubiquitous. You'll find any book you read, you get to the second chapter or 3/4 of the way through the introduction, and most authors will bring up the fact that the premise of their book has to do with the fact that we evolved from lower species of life, and that it was Darwinian evolution. This is embedded in society. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this movement, spreading the movement, really means to undo these misunderstandings, and so that it's systemically available, the idea that everything comes from a supreme person. Many people consider this to be archaic and non-scientific, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed very scientifically, as did his followers like the Goswamis, particularly Jiva Goswami, that how it is that everything comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that all the Vedas are pointing to that for the monists. It's not pointing to the impersonal aspect of the Lord. And let's just see if there's any reflections from today. A reflection from Ashraya Madhava. Prabhu said, he is peaceful because he renounces all topics not related to the service of Krishna. And from a previous class, Kautukarnava said, do we know examples of different Salokya, Samipya, Sarshti, Sarupya, since all Vaikuntha-vasis have same form as Lord Narayan, except for Kushtuba Gem? They live on the same planet with the Lord. They are personal associates of the Lord. Most probably they have same opulence as the Lord. So what is the difference between the four? Actually, there are multifarious forms in Vaikuntha. This is confirmed, Kautukarnava, in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. Let me see if I can just access that for a second. Yes, if you look in the Brihat Bhagavatamrita, in the chapter 2.4.34, Vaikuntha, the spiritual kingdom, there's description there about the Lord's forms. Here's Gopakumar outside of Vaikuntha. Before he goes in, he's describing. They extol the wonder, this is text 33, they extol the wonder of the great pastimes of the Lord, the husband of Lakshmi, as if his pastimes were those of some all-victorious king, and they were eager to see the Lord's lotus feet. Commentary, Gopakumar was amazed at how these persons conducted themselves. These are Vaikuntavasis. They sang and danced without inhibition, expressing the glories of their victorious Lord. They told one another how their Lord favored his responsible servants by providing suitable homes and fine food and drink. Indeed, because Lord Narayan is the husband of the goddess Lakshmi, it is only fitting that he display his sovereignty with such opulence and that his servants share in it. 34. Some were with their families, some with an array of things, and others had left their families and things outside. Commentary. Some Vaikuntavasis were entering the Lord's kingdom with their children, wives, and servants. Some rode in their own vehicles and carried their own umbrellas, chamras, and weapons. Others chose to keep their families and baggage outside the gate of Vaikuntha. 35. Some had absorbed all that they had into themselves, and like beggars without possessions, they came alone, immersed in the modes of devotional meditation. Commentary. The Vaikuntha devotees who preferred a more meditative mood of service hid within their own transcendental bodies the families and property Lord Narayan had awarded them. So the devotees arriving in Vaikuntha were full in all powers and showed the full range of devotional variegatedness in their pastimes of worshiping the Supreme Lord in perfect ecstasy. 36. Some assumed different forms at different times, with all kinds of ornaments, bodily features, and ways of acting, all exceedingly attractive. Commentary. The Vaikuntha devotees not only acted in many different ways, but also assumed many different forms, including those of animals, birds, and trees. Some devotees would show one form for some time and then change it to another. Some appeared as humans, some as monkeys, demigods, demons, or sages, and some bore the signs of persons initiated into the behavior of the Varnashram system. Commentary. The residents of Vaikuntha are in fact purely transcendental persons. The substance of their bodies is unalloyed Satchidananda. So these residents never belong to the human or any other material species, nor to the limited designations of varnas and ashramas. Still, for the Lord's pleasure, they may assume or relinquish any form at any time. Some of them, therefore, appeared before Gopakumar like members of Vedic society wearing the signs of particular ashrams and varnas. Some wore sacred threads like initiated brahmanas, indicating that they chanted mantras for worshipping the Lord, and they carried kusha grass and kamandalus in their hands, wore tulsi malas on their necks, and had tilak on their foreheads. Some looked like Indra, Chandra, or other demigods. Some had 3 eyes, or 4 heads, or 4 arms, or 8, or 1,000 faces. Commentary. Some of the Vaikuntha residents looked like the king of heaven, Indra, with 1,000 eyes on their bodies and thunderbolt weapons in their hands. Others appeared like the gods of the moon, sun, fire, and wind. These demigods headed by Indra are not actually incarnations of the Supreme Lord like Lord Shiva and Brahma, who are especially empowered guna avatars. If required for service to Lord Narayan, the Vaikuntavasis can assume the exact forms of ordinary demigods, but empowered incarnations and direct expansions of Narayan such as Anantashesha and Vaikuntavasis can only emulate to the extent of copying certain of their bodily features. Later I shall explain to you the reason for this extreme variety of appearances for those who enjoy the moods of devotion to Krishna. Is there anything not beautiful? Commentary. In Vaikuntha, the liberation of Sarupya, having a form similar to that of the Supreme Lord, is available to everyone. We may reasonably expect, therefore, that all the Vaikuntha residents should have 4 arms and look like Lord Narayan. Why then did some of them look like humans, monkeys, and all sorts of other forms of life? Gopakumar later heard from Narada Muni the definitive philosophical explanation for this variety, and in the course of the present narration, Gopakumar will relate that to his own student. But even granting that there is a reason for varieties of bodies in Vaikuntha, why should Lord Narayana's devotees assume ugly bodies like those of monkeys? In response, it may be said that we know from common worldly experience that anyone who has intense attraction to something cannot help but see that thing as beautiful, no matter what it is. This is also true on the spiritual level. Otherwise, why would the Supreme Lord and his devotees be so attracted to persons like Hanuman and Jambavan? The residents of Vaikuntha transcend everything material. For persons within the material creation, the manifold glories of those residents and the glories of the Vaikuntha world and its master are beyond analogy and beyond the power of words to describe. Commentary. Normally, the varieties of life forms in any realm indicate a vast hierarchy of relative superiority and inferiority, as Gopakumar saw among the residents of heaven. Such a hierarchy might seem out of place in Vaikuntha, where everyone should be equal on the platform of Satchidananda. Gopakumar wants to explain carefully to his student the real situation, but is afraid of committing offenses by applying material examples to the transcendental reality of Vaikuntha. Therefore, he first gives a disclaimer. Comparisons to things of the known world may help neophytes begin to understand the spiritual world, but can never do full justice to that higher reality. Since the categories of spiritual existence are totally different from those of the material world, spiritually immature intelligence has no power to comprehend them directly. Nonetheless, my dear Brahmana, you are a resident of the material world and your intelligence is confined because all you can see is what is material. So I say it is like this, so that by material examples you might understand various things more easily. May Lord Hari forgive this offense. Commentary. An attempt to describe spiritual existence in material terms is, strictly speaking, inappropriate and impossible. Yet if a conditioned soul can be even a little attracted by words evoking some of the glories of Vaikuntha, and if he can be encouraged to take up the task of spiritual development, the impossible can indeed become possible. Any honest attempt to enlighten the conditioned soul with Vaikuntha consciousness is worthwhile and praiseworthy. Even though our thinking may now be covered by concepts of matter and conditioned life, pure Vaishnavas can guide us gradually to transcendental understanding. We know from ordinary experience what a king is, so if we can further appreciate the personality of Godhead as the supreme king, we have begun to understand his glories. And he goes on from there, but hopefully that gives you a little more context, Kauta Karnava, in that section. Did that help? Why don't you give your realization in return after having heard that?
I understand that although all of them have the Sarupya, they have the opportunity to have the same form as Lord, but still they exhibit different bodily forms according to their mood and relationship with Lord Narayan. So there is still variegatedness, even though they have the facility to have the same form as Lord.
Thank you. Very nicely done. And doesn't it also indicate quite clearly that we may be used to the ways that the material world are confining and that we're limited by the conditioning and by the modes of material nature to act in a certain way, to be in a certain way, whereas in Vaikuntha, there are no rules. It's an unfettered realm, unfettered by the conditioning of Maya. And therefore, there's no stereotype there. There's no rules. It's unlimited. And anything can happen, really. And it can change from one the forms are completely malleable. Like there was a description there of one of the residents, he had put all the possessions that the Lord had given him inside himself. You know, we see some of these ideas in movies and cartoons here, and you know, where heroes and superheroes can do practically anything. They'll swallow, you know, a whole world, or you know, absorb something. But where do these ideas come from of the unlimited? The sense is there because in the spiritual world, all this is reality. Yeah, thanks for asking that important question. Hare Krishna. Wow. Okay, a few reflections came in. Let's see. Reflection. Amit said, Nishta, stay fixed in chanting and stay fixed to the vow. Yes, this is very important. If one can follow the right vows, then one can extricate oneself from the material world and become happy. It's actually Krishna's teaching in the Bhagavad Gita, Jagnartak kamano natra loko yam karma bandhana tadartam karma konteya mukta sangha samachara. That if you want to find happiness and be adjusted in this world and also attain liberation at the end, then take to yajna. And yajna means pleasing the Lord's senses by certain activities. This is the gentle kind of renunciation that we enact. It's not militant renunciation of the world for the sake of renouncing and withdrawing the senses, but we rather use our senses to engage in Krishna's service. And that's yajna, and that brings us, and if we stay fixed in those vows, then we'll be protected from the onslaught of the material senses. Raga Dwesha vimuktaisthu vishayan indrayaishcharan atma vashera videyatma prasadam arigachati. Could you put that up? So in this verse, Raga Dwesha vimuktaisthu vishayan indrayaishcharan. Somebody tell me why I quoted that verse in context of what we're talking about, or what I was just saying. Please. Why am I quoting this verse in the context of what I was just saying? Por favor. Anyone? Okay, but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Okay, raga means attachment and dvesha means detachment. So these raga and dvesha are two of the kleshas, the miseries of the mind. There's a way in which our minds are overcome by various impediments. There are 5 kleshas altogether, and two of the 5, as mentioned in yoga psychology, are raga and dvesha. So where do these come from? Raga means an attachment for certain things, and dvesha means a certain aversion to other things. So these come because of our previous impressions. I, in numerous previous lives, have had encounters with objects of the senses and various situations in the world. And because every time I engage with the world, it leaves an impression in my mind, like a photograph, and it's there. In fact, we don't see the world directly. We only see the world through the photograph, the photography that's taking place within our mind. The image comes in, it's photographed, and there's an image left on my mind, and that stays there. Then it becomes a determining factor in which way I move in life. In fact, this is really what karma means. There's a way in which I'm impelled by my previous works and impressions in my mind to move in a certain direction and make certain kinds of choices. This is confirmed by Krishna in the 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita in the 3rd verse. Why don't you look that up really quick, and I'll just show that. 2nd or 3rd verse. Where he says, does Lord Krishna, that we are made of our faith. And that means that there it is, Sadvanu Rupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati Bharata Shraddha Mayo Yam Purusho Yo Yat Shraddha Sa Eva Saha. O son of Bharata, according to one's existence under the various modes of nature, one evolves a particular kind of faith. The living being is said to be of a particular faith according to the modes he has acquired. So you can go back to the other verse. And that acquisition means that we're acquiring these samskars, impressions in our mind, in our chitta. And they come from these vrittis, or waves of impressions that come into the mind. And therefore, because of those previous impressions, I have a predisposition towards certain sense objects and aversion to others. Can anybody think of examples of people you know that have an aversion, natural aversion to certain kind of sense objects, and a spontaneous attraction towards others? Or can you name two of those features in yourself?
Cats like cat food.
Well, at least they pretend they do. Yeah, cats like cat food. Dogs like dog food. Dogs howl at the moon.
Yeah. Aversion to sense objects.
Which ones? I want specific.
I give you an example.
Okay.
You're walking on the sidewalk, and suddenly you understand that nearby there is a stool of an animal, a cat or a dog, and that immediately you feel aversion. You distance yourself from that and go walking.
Yep. Yeah. That's true. And in some cities, you got to do a lot of averting to get around it.
Yes.
So thank you. There's natural attraction and aversion. So then I consider I'm free, but actually I'm not free. It's coming from my subconscious mind, these impressions, and therefore I'm making choices based on that. That's confirmed by the verse I showed you from 17.3. Shradamayo yam purushaha. The Purusha has acquired certain kinds of impressions and therefore has a type of shraddha, which means a predisposition towards certain kinds of things and an opposition for others, or an aversion towards others. So going back again to where we were. No, go back to the Gita. I wasn't done with Raga Dwesha Vimuktaisthu. Yes, Manjula Kanta. Please go ahead.
Guru Maharaj, when you were saying that there's a natural aversion or a natural attraction to something, I was thinking that really depends sometimes on the curiosity of an individual. Some people are naturally curious. They want to try different things, good or bad. They don't care. They want to try. And some people just don't. Is that also a mode of nature?
Whatever it may be, our svabhava or our personality, our traits, our curiosities and so forth are products of the three modes of material nature. This is confirmed throughout the Gita, the verse I showed you, and also in the 13th chapter where Krishna describes the modes of material nature and their interactions. You can look at that too. Look at 13.7. And you'll see all the interactions that take place within the realm of the material nature, including the gross matter and subtle matter. 13.7. Krishna describes as interaction. One sec, let me just show this one thing or I'll forget. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. It's probably because it's a series of verses. If you just go to 13.6 or 5, then you can go forward.
6 and 7. 6 and 7.
6 and 7. Thank you. Okay, so here he talks Mahabhutyan Yahankaro. So here he's describing all the material world, right? Mahabhutani Ahankaro. So Mahabhutani, it's the great elements, earth, water, fire. air, ether, then ahankaro, and then false ego. Buddhi, more subtle elements. Avyaktam, the unmanifested. This is Sankhya, naming all the different parts of the material world. Eva, certainly. Indriyani daishaikam cha pancha chandriya gochara. And then we have the senses, the active senses for acquiring knowledge and for working. Icha, dvesha, sukham, dukkam. So Icha means desire, and dvesha means hatred, sukham, happiness, dukkam, distress, sangita, the aggregate. You can add curiosity to that list. Chaitana, the living entity, the living symptoms, dhruti, conviction, etat, all this, kshetram, the field of activity, samasena, in summary, savikaram, with interactions, udharitam, exemplified. Translation is, the 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activity and its interactions. So this is the interaction of the field of activities, has nothing to do with the soul. This is the conditioned nature. And I think I misidentify with that through false ego. I think this is me. Oh, I'm this curious little chap, and I like butterscotch ice cream or something like that. But these are all coming from our subconscious samskars, the way we've been conditioned. Other people don't like ice cream. If you go to, I'm serious. If you go to some countries, they don't like sweets. If you give Indian sweets to Japanese people, they're like, it's way too sweet for them. They have fake sweets in Japan. It's not sweet at all. So this Raga Dwesha. Let's try this one again. Raga Dwesha vimuktais. So Raga and Dwesha, we have this klesha in our mind that's impelling us to make certain choices based on subconscious impulses. Vimuktais, by one who has become free from. 2, vishayan, sense objects, indriyai. So these sense objects are part of the field of activities and its interactions, right? And now, if you, rather than following those impulses and just saying, I'm free, which you're not, and saying, I'm free to do whatever I want, which you're not either, but instead, you follow vidheya atma, you become one who follows the higher authority. You follow the instruction given by the Shastra, by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Then you rise above the limitations of the senses and the conditioning, because you're no longer doing it for yourself. And you may look like you're moving in the world like an ordinary person, but because your intention and your alignment is different, the context is different. So this is important, because context is vital. For instance, if somebody, probably gives this example, if somebody kills another man, he can go intentionally, he can get in some states the death sentence. But if you're wearing a uniform representing your country, and you kill somebody else wearing a uniform representing their country during wartime, then you get a medal and you become a hero that you killed a man. Very good. Bravo. Well done. So you did the same thing, but the context was different. So for those who are moving about the world using their senses and so forth, they're following the regulative principles of freedom. These people are not entangled by their previous impressions, the kleshas within their mind, because they're following the higher authority. Okay, now where are we? Garima says, one habit to develop is chanting Hare Krishna. Other obstacles will be overcome by itself. Yes, and Prabhupada gave this example. If you have a glass full of ink and you pour in more and more milk, then gradually all the ink will be gone and only the milk will remain within the glass. So no matter how dire or desperate or hopeless it seems, it's not. Everything can be overcome by the chanting of the holy name, guaranteed. And Dhanavari says, I like the point, Vishnu Sahasranam, Suvarnamarna He Mango Chanjanangiri. I did this with my father since childhood, but did not know the meaning of Lord Chaitanya's avatar. Yes, very nice. Doing the Vishnu Sahasranam since childhood. What a nice samskar that is, isn't it?
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna Devarata.
I was really appreciating your point about the senses and the conditioning of the senses and how they're attracted to certain sense objects. And I was also thinking how today's reading from Caitanya-Caritāmṛta, it's giving elaborate descriptions of the characteristics and qualities of Lord Chaitanya. And it helps us recalibrate our subtle body to become attracted towards Krishna. And then I was thinking of the pastime with Rukmini, when she sent the message to Krishna. And in her the first line of her message, she's saying how simply by hearing about your qualities, I've developed attraction to you. And she had such eagerness, she was ready to give up her life simply by hearing about Krishna, just to attain Krishna. So I was just appreciating that in relationship to our reading today and how hearing about Lord Chaitanya's features helps recalibrate our subtle body.
Yes, it's an excellent point. Actually, she told Krishna, I'm ready to give up life after life. If I cannot attain your mercy, then I'll simply perform austerities until I die, and I'll do that life after life until you give me your mercy. And this is the mood or the kind of desire that's required to advance rapidly on the path of devotional service, is to develop this red-hot desire, this boiling desire to meet Krishna, to be with Krishna, and so forth. And it begins with hearing about him. This is also mentioned quite prominently in the pastime of the wives of the Brahmanas who had never met Krishna, but they had heard about him from others. When they went to the marketplace to shop for their husbands, who were Vedic Brahmins performing sacrifices, they would come in contact with the residents of Vrindavan, and in bartering for various articles they needed for their yajna, they would hear about Krishna and his qualities. And just by hearing that, they became so attracted that that was their intense desire to meet Krishna. Of course, great discoveries come only unto the prepared mind, said Louis Pasteur. So when the devotee is prepared by hearing about Krishna and develops that desire, then when the opportunity comes, as it did for the wives of the Brahmins, and they heard Krishna was there and wanted their service to bring him and Balaram some food, they immediately dropped their other work, their sacrifices, and they ran to the forest. And the acharyas all say that this was because they had come in contact with the residents of Vrindavan and heard the pastimes and about the qualities of Krishna. So they became so enamored. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
I had the same thing that Mataji just said. I always recited Vishnu Sahasranama since I was a kid, but I never knew about Mahaprabhu's. This meant actually the Mahaprabhu's appearance. So it was just amazing to know that.
Yeah, well, that's why it's so important to have parampara. Because when we hear from the acharyas, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and others, we have the inside track. We understand, whoa, what was Krishna thinking here? Or what does this mean? And so forth. And to actually unlock the meaning of all the scriptures, what to speak of just one verse, the entire purpose is not well known oftentimes. People think that the Vedas are a hodgepodge and you can pick whatever you like and it's all the same. And this is, like modern day Hinduism, like whatever you like, you can do. Yatamat tatapat. People actually teach this kind of idea. But there is a a way in which, for instance, the Goswamis, Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipunosha Dharma Samstapako, they established very clearly the overall purpose of the Vedas. And if you read Tattva Sandarbha, you'll see how expertly Jiva Goswami brings us to this clear siddhanta about how the Srimad-Bhagavatam is more important than the Vedas. First of all, it completes the Vedas, and this is perfectly appropriate, because there's a way in which the Puranas and their supplements, the Itihasas and so forth, are explaining what's in the Vedas in a language that people can understand. And then the Srimad-Bhagavatam, out of all the different Puranas, comes to the ultimate conclusion, or it gives the fruit of all the Vedic teachings. And then, of course, we find out the holy name, like Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate, even in the verse from the Upanishads that describes the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which says, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Iti Sodashakam Nam Nam, Kali Kalma Shanashanam. That is just saying the different aspects of the holy name. And then it says, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate, those who know how to look in the Vedas, they have the proper vision of the Vedas, they'll understand that all the Vedas are pointing here to this mantra. And so who would know that? You know, people say, Vedas mean you can worship Ganesh, you can worship Durga, it's all the same, blah, blah, blah. But then the acharyas come and establish siddhanta so that you understand where to put all your energy and attention, so that you don't diffuse it in places that are not helpful to you. Okay, we probably have time for, let's see, Vaikunta Nayaka Prabhu was here. He says, we hear the Leela where an old woman climbed up on Mahaprabhu's shoulders to take darshan of deities, and Mahaprabhu appreciated her enthusiasm, while Mahaprabhu himself would stand next to Garuda Stamba in the mood that the Lord would perhaps see him when he sees Garuda. Similarly, His Holiness Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, I heard, would not even wear his glasses while taking darshan. His mood was that more than he seeing the Lord should see him. So while taking darshan, what should we emulate? The enthusiasm of the old woman, or the self-effacing mood of Mahaprabhu, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Which should we emulate? Enthusiasm of the old woman, or the self-effacing? Well, both are there, should be there. We should have great enthusiasm, obviously. You know, once I was in Varshana, and actually it was my first time I was in Varshana, and somebody told me, oh, there's going to be a darshan over here. So around that time, there were a lot of local people, and they all came and they were gathering right in front of the altar, and then the doors opened. I didn't know what the signal was to open the doors, but apparently they did. And before I knew it, I was knocked to the ground by their enthusiasm. And also in seeing Shishi Radha Govinda, we used to go up there every year to Jaipur to go for the Mangalarti for Shishi Radha Govinda. I remember the first time I was there thinking, okay, this is the end. This is where I end my life. Because 3,000 people in Mangalartik, and when they brought out the lamp, they don't pass it around, but the Pujari holds it out, and everyone surges for it. And literally I was smashed in the middle, and I thought, this is it, right in front of the deities, I'm gone, you know. But actually, in both cases, I felt this surge of spontaneous energy come through my body, and I thought, wow, these are real devotees here. What am I doing in the midst of them, first of all? And second of all, I felt like because they touched me, pushing me out of the way to see the deity or to get the lamp, I actually got some kind of benediction went into my body from that spontaneous attraction. So Utsahan is always auspicious, actually. It's always auspicious when you apply it to the Lord, then it's even more auspicious. But we should always have that mood of, for instance, sometimes if someone dresses the deities and then they come in and they take pictures, it's fine to show, to remember what you did and how you dress the deities and stuff. But if you start thinking in terms of I'm going to show off that I'm the best or something like that, and when you come before the deities, if your enthusiasm can be misplaced also. If you're thinking, oh, I'm the best kirtan leader, listen to me, or you have a misplaced mood, then you miss out on the sweetness of actually being seen by Krishna in the mood, if your mood's not correct. So these are indicative of different moods. It's not that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta is not enthusiastic like that woman when he comes to see the deities, but he's also expressing that enthusiasm in another way by showing that this is my surrender. I'm here as your servant. You see me. Okay, so we've come to that bewitching hour, 10 o'clock. At time for us to stop. And I thank you very much for taking your whole morning to come together to chant and hear. And now let's have the Guru Puja.
Maharaj.
Yes?
Maharaj, I have a question. Like in 2.64, you have read the purport. Here, Prabhupada is referring that, but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. What is mean by the complete mercy of the Lord?
It means that one will develop one's relationship with Krishna, because when this is the greatest need of the Lord and the greatest prasad of the Lord, the greatest favor of the Lord, is that he allows us to serve him and to know him, to enter into a relationship with him. So the complete mercy of the Lord is expressed in many verses where Krishna talks about how you can enter into his service. For instance, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stinapriya ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. These are very personal exclamations by the Lord, where he's saying that if I'm equal to everybody, if you just ask me for something, I don't discriminate. I give whatever you want. But he says, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya. If you start to worship me very seriously, then you're in me and I'm in you. You become inseparable. And so this is a great mercy of Krishna to the practitioner. Of course, there are different layers of the Lord's prasad, and the different ways that he gives his favor to the devotees. But the point is, if you dedicate yourself to Krishna's instructions and consider yourself his devotee, then you'll have a very auspicious life. In fact, just the entering onto the path of devotional service, Rupa Goswami says, it relieves you from all material distress. It's the beginning of all auspiciousness. It puts one in transcendental pleasure right away. Then he goes on, there are three even more advanced positions as one advances in devotional service, that you'll be able to attain that which is rarely achieved, and you won't desire even liberation from the material world. Imagine that I don't even care if I get free from the material world. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in his Shikshashtakam, that I'm not asking for liberation even, because I'm so happily situated right where I am serving that it's not an issue for me. And this mood is very exclusive. It's the only way to attract Krishna. So if you dedicate yourself to Krishna and to the ways that he is asking you to reform your life, then he becomes very dear to you and you become dear to him. And that's the mercy of the Lord. That's the prasad.
Maharaj, here Lord is saying that you have to be free from all attachment. But bhakti is all about attachment. We have to attach to our guru. We have to attach to our parampara. So are these two are not contradicting themselves?
Well, they seem to be, but actually they're not. And that's what Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita when he says, one who sees action in action in inaction, one who sees action in inaction and inaction in action is really someone who sees clearly. Because when you're doing akarma, it means you're not, the result isn't sticking to you because your motive is different. And so when you become attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then actually you're attached to reality. Reality is beautiful and it's beneficial to be attached to reality. Whereas, as it is said in the 10th canto, 14th chapter by Lord Brahma, those who don't have this attachment to Krishna, their house itself becomes a prison. All their attachments to their relatives become foot shackles. But look at the residents of Vrindavan and Vraj. They're attached. They have a little town. They didn't want to leave it. When they went to Kurukshetra, Krishna says, "Here I am." And they said, No. We want Vrindavan. They're attached to that village. They have pots and pans and houses and bullocks and everything else, and they're attached to it, but they don't like it without Krishna. So that attachment is liberating, whereas the attachment that's based on selfish desire to the material world, that is the cause of bondage. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Now we're going back into Jamulus Loka. Namashreshtam Manamapi Sachiputra Matra Sarupam Shirupam Tasyagrajam Urupari Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratitikripaya Shri Gurum Tandatosmi He Guru Gyanada Dinabando Swaranda Data Karunaika Sindo Vrindavana Sina Hitavatar Prasida Radha Pranaya Pracharo He Dinabando Karunaika Sindo Kuru Prasada Maimanda Mudhe Laksha Parade Bahupapagade Tatpada Padme Stumatishta Krishna.
Where's your camera?
I bow down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master, by whose causeless mercy I have attained the supreme holy name, the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Swarup Damodar Rupa Goswami and his older brother Sanatana Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radhakund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for loving service. Hare Krishna, for loving service of Shri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are appreciating the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore, grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Sri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bando Muvi Sabadhanamate Jara Prasadi Bhai He Bhava Toriya Jai Jara Prasadi Bhai He Bhava Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Krishna Prapti Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Oikya Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriya Arnakori Ho Mane Asha Shri Guru Charani Rati Ese Uttama Gati Shri Guru Charani Rati Ese Uttama Gati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha 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 Jakudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu She Jakudan Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu She Yagyan Dire Prokashito Prema Bhakti Ja Hoite Abhidya Vinasa Jante Prema Bhakti Ja Hoite Abhidya Vinasa Jante Videga Jahara Charito Videga Jahara Charito Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokana Lokera Jivana Lokana Lokera Jivana Ha Prabhu Korodoya Deha More Padashaya Ha Prabhu Korodoya Deha More Padashaya Bebe Jash Kushi Trivana Bebe Jash Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada,
Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Jai Prabhupada.
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Peshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine
Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyarishatarine
Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyarishatarine
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everybody! Here, Prashant, go, go, go. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bolo! Back to Godhead, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Oh, Hari Bol. Nariya Kodru mein Nityananda Mahajan, Nariya Kodru mein Nityananda Mahajan, Bhakti Achi Naam Hat Jivera Karan, Shadaban Jan Hai, Shadaban Jan Hai, Shadaban Jan Hai, Shadaban Jan Hai, Prabhu Ragnai Pai Magiye Pika, Prabhu Ragnai Pai Magiye Pika, Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha, Bolo Krishna Bhajo Krishna, Koro Krishna Shikha,
Bolo Krishna Bhaja Krishna,
Aparara Shina Hoy Loha Krishna Nam, Aparara Shina Hoy Loha Krishna Nam, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dhanna Pran, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, go pray. Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dhanna Pran, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dhanna Pran, Krishna Samsara Koro Chari Anachar, Krishna Samsara Koro Chari Anachar, Jive Doya Krishna Nam, Sarva Dharma Sar, Jive Doya Krishna Nam, Sarva Dharma Sar, Jive Doya Krishna Nam, Sarva Dharma Sar. Nityananda Mahajan, Nariya Godume Nityananda Mahajan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bolo.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Oh, Krishna. Back to Godhead. Go, go, go. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Shri Harinam Sankertan ki, Shri Harinam Mantra ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki, Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishwapad Paramhamsa Privadikacharya Stotra Shishiman Hapai Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishwapad Paramhamsa Privadikacharya Stotra Shishiman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Maharaj Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavanam Ki. Shri Mayapur Nam Deep Dham Ki. Shri Raghunath Puri Dham Ki. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki. Sam Beda Bhaktivinoda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur pray Manande Hari 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 Bo. Nadiya Godrume Nityananda Mahajan Pateyache Na Sharaban Jan He, Sharaban Jan He, Sharaban Jan He, Prabhuragnai by Magiye Pika. Nityananda Prabhu, he opened the marketplace. He's given it away, all the way to Vrindavan, back to the spiritual world. Only thing necessary, just your faith. Give your heart to Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and back to Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. Now, I have to tell you something very important, if you don't mind. First of all, we like to offer special prayers for Sutra Malika's family because unexpectedly last night, Sutra Malika's father passed away in his sleep. And so this morning he was getting ready to go back to India. So we pray for his safe passage and that his dear father may attain the shelter at Krishna's lotus feet and his whole family may find solace in the holy names of the Lord. Everyone, please join me in a moment of prayer for Sutra Malika Prabhu, his father, and his full family. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Our dear Lord Krishna, if you so desire, please give your full mercy to Sutra Malika's father and his whole family. Thank you for considering our request. Hare Krishna. So, second of all, I wanted to tell you that last week the World Sankertan newsletter came out, and ISKCON of Silicon Valley is not number one in North America, not number one in North America and Europe, but number one in the entire world, and by a long shot. We're ahead of Mayapur, ahead of Delhi, everywhere. Of course, we always said we were going to beat Delhi, we were going to beat Mayapur. We didn't want it to be like this. But my point is, the efforts that you all put in, and I've been getting notices from various devotees around the world wanting to know. I gave a talk to the leaders of India yesterday or the day before, I can't remember which day it was, but they wanted to know what was going on, how were we doing it. I'm getting calls from all over the world, actually, everyone asking, well, how is this done? So the trouble, I saw everyone put in a lot of tapasya to do what we did for Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's tapasya. But it's a light for the whole world to show how to not back down in the face of any kind of obstacle, but rather to step up. And this mood that you've adopted of stepping up in the face of obstacles is gaining Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's merciful glance. That's why he allowed us to do bigger than we've ever done on book distribution in a period of time, a short period of time recently. So my humble request is, with all the confusion and restrictions going on in the world, please channel your energy into expanding the Sankertan online as much as possible. And for no other reason, to inspire the world, because that is the devotees in the world. They're amazed, and once you hear scores like this, there's no longer any impediment in the minds of others. They just feel that now we know we have to also do it too. and we have to figure out how to do it. Of course, one can always make excuses and say, well, that's because you have better telephones than we do or something like that. But anyone who wants to sincerely do this can move up. So we're coming to the end of the year now, believe it or not. It's almost over. It'll be over in a few minutes this year. And and also, believe it or not, the struggles caused by this pandemic at some point will start to tail off, because the modes are always churning. And right now, there's a particular configuration of the gunas that are causing this, and it'll change. But right now, we have an opportunity to, what Prabhupada said, was take advantage of wartime and become heroes. He told us a story back in 1975 that during wartime, a farm boy from middle America, who's never going to be known for anything, because he comes from a small town, he doesn't have a huge education, never will, but he enlists in the military and he starts at the lowest rank. But then he gets sent overseas, as do the infantry, the lowest rank, and he gets put on the front lines where all the fighting is. And then, because he has this determination in his heart, during the fight, he runs into danger, risking his own life, and he saves 3 other people. And it's just out of a strong sense of impulse. And once he does that, then he makes it into the front page of the paper and he becomes famous all over the world, and he comes back as a hometown hero. So Prabhupada said, spiritual life, getting into Krishna's inner circle, is a long shot, except for those who somehow or other become heroes during wartime. And now's an opportunity, when we are faced with obstacles and Kali Yuga is advancing, to find that determination in our hearts and move up, to expand Sankertan. It's a good place. It's the right place to put the energy, to give other people mercy by giving the Srimad-Bhagavatam and all of Prabhupada's books and setting an example. So all of the initiatives that have gone into place, the calling parties, highly important. The bhakti community, which is, by the way, growing every week, more and more people joining and more classes being added, which is huge, and is the main question asked to me by world leaders when I present book distribution is, what are you doing to follow up with the book distribution after you do it? And I'm so proud to be able to show them, okay, here's Bhakti community. And that's another huge part of our program. The two things go together hand in glove, or as my friend Keshar Bharti likes to say, like peas and carrots. They go together. So let's keep putting our energy into trying to please Lord Chaitanya through these efforts of outreach, and we'll reach greater and greater heights. What is your opinion, Malini Devi Dasi? Or as Keshar Bharti would call you, Malini. Uh-oh.
You should be able to unmute.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, totally agree with you, whatever you just said. Actually, this was exactly what we needed. I was just going to ask you for some words of inspiration. And devotees have been putting a lot of energy in the calling parties, not just calling people, but even also brainstorming ideas on what works and what doesn't work. And last week during the calling party, we discussed and we thought, whatever we have done for Bhaktivinoda Thakur Marathon, we have to start that all over again for Bhadra Purnima. And we should start today. So which means that what we noticed that each doing a little bit actually helped a lot. So we are going to go back and reach out to the devotees to ask to reach out to their contacts and to continue that effort. So that's what we thought we will do this week and going forward.
Could you tell me how many devotees participated in the last marathon?
It was 300 and
That's a lot. 386 or something like that, right?
Yes, our goal was 300.
I think that's, out of all the statistics, that's the one that's the most impressive to me.
Yes,
is the wide base thing. I just want to say one other thing about not giving up. I learned a lesson once. We used to go on Sankertan every single day, and as far as we were concerned back then, the scores counted more than life itself. And so one night I was out at O'Hare Airport in Chicago, and we had about 20 devotees out there at that time. And there was a devotee named Giri Jadava. He never did huge scores, but he was always really steady. And the night we were out there, there was huge numbers of Navy recruits. Not just recruits, but they were already in the Navy, and they were being dropped off at the airport to fly to their various places. But they had been warned on the bus that there would be Hare Krishnas in the airport that would try to sell you books, so don't take it. So for the first few hours of distributing, everyone was saying, no, 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 get away, get away. They could see you coming, and they just say, go. And I admit that I stopped talking to them, and I kind of lowered my energy, and I thought, oh, it's not possible. So I did very little that night, and I concentrated on other people. But Giri Jadava, I saw him going from one person to the next, one to the next, to the next, with a full energy. And I was thinking, oh, what a waste of time. He's just wasting his energy. And at the end of the day, when we were in the van coming home, all of us, and we were sharing how we did, he had done huge. And I kicked myself. And I thought, that's the secret. Don't give up. Depend on Lord Chaitanya's mercy and keep going and let him reveal where it is. So sometimes in these phone callings, when you can't see it, people at the end of the line, and you're not sure where's the new kind of leads we're going to get, where are they going to come from? They will come, but be like Giri Jadava and just keep going, keep trying, and don't just apply your energy evenly and keep doing it no matter what the result is. And there'll be bigger and bigger breakthroughs. That's advice for this next phase.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. That was so helpful. So we're going to join the calling party at 2 p.m. today again. And kids are presenting again to Seattle. They're on a marathon. And this afternoon at 1:30 p.m., kids are presenting to the Seattle temple. Their sadhana, seva, and Sankertan seminar.
Jai.
Prabhu, that's all for Sankertan announcements, Prabhu.
Okay, so the calling party is at 2:00 today.
Yes, Prabhu.
And do you have some leads for devotees if they come on? What will the experience be?
Prabhu, we actually have a list of all the people who took Bhagavatam or Caitanya-Caritāmṛta in the past. We are trying to see if we can get referrals out of them. We are trying. And out of that list, last week, Sachinandan Gaurang Prabhu distributed a Bhagavatam set who didn't have a Bhagavatam. So I think that is something that we are trying. And when we ask for referrals for people, some of them have said that, yes, we will think about it and get back to you. So we are going to follow up with them to see if they have any referrals yet.
Okay. Let's ask Shrisha, our stalwart of stalwarts, any advice or, what's in your heart? What drives you to just keep going and keep calling?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, I'm thinking the success rate is more when we contacts in our private list, which we have in our phone. The success rate is more when we contacted in regular people. So as Malini Mataji said, we requested all devotees to contact at least 1 or 2 this time also, so that we can reach our goal. But that is one of the things. And another thing is all my contacts is over, so I'm taking my Prabhu's phone now. I'm checking my Prabhu's phone contacts list. So I'm asking his contacts, which is okay to call, which is not like office people, but somehow we are like that. We are trying. And India, some people are interested, Prabhuji. So we sent 6 sets India last week. My family got. they wanted to donate 3 sets after my father heard from my son Arjun that we are doing this project. So my father was so inspired, and they want to distribute on Bhadra Purnima. So they ordered some sets, and they are asking their home language connection after these books. They got the books and they said, how can we read this? We can't understand. They opened the books, they are saying. So I'm looking for any people who already got the books and for the connection next, how to read them, maybe in their, so I'm asking some Shivas Pandit Prabhu or some other Prabhujis to give a class also for them. So we are all doing in this process.
Yes, that's important. And I found in calling the list last time I was on of people who already had Bhagavatam sets, I called one man and he said, yes, we got the set. It was for my wife. I'm not interested in these things, but she got it. I said, did she ask if she liked it? And he said, she hasn't opened the box yet. So the point is, there's still a lot of potential in these leads, because somehow they made a big choice to get a set of Bhagavatams. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And if we can catch that same thread that they were on, then it'll lead to a lot of nice things. Mm-hmm. And also the follow-up with the, there are some devotees who are that have gotten on the bhakti community, and they're inviting a lot of their friends to come on. I'm seeing it. There's one man who's inviting more and more of his friends, and they're really high caliber people coming on. And the more we network with people and make friends with them and just find out what their needs, interests, and concerns are, even if they don't take right now, just leave a really good connection and impression with people, and it'll all add up. It'll continue to grow as a big, big networking project. It's not about a one-time thing. Thank you, Srisha, for your example, stalwart example.
Thank you.
Undying enthusiasm.
Prabhu, I just wanted to add that Shamarupa Prabhu and Durga Prasad Prabhu, they're trying to get in contact of all the temple list around the US. So if you contact each temple, they have a list of devotees that they have, and also the yellow pages. So we can get a lot more people who are inclined, because they already go to the temple. So we should have that list soon, Prabhu, so we can try to call them as well.
I hope soon means by 2 p.m. today.
We have a few, Prabhu.
That's an excellent idea, and I'm glad that they are leaving no stone unturned, because that's the mood. Thank you. Excellent. Okay. Any other announcement? Sharira Vijaja Jodendriya Taheka Jive Pele Vishaya Shakare Tarmati Dipayati Loba Muisu Durmati Takejita Katita Samsare Krishna Bodo Doyamoy Gori Bade Jivaja Shaprashad Nadiloba Shayana Vriddapa Śrī Caitanya-Caritāmṛta Mahapashade Govinde Namo Brahmani Vaishnave Sapupunyabatam Rajan Vishwaso Nagachayate Prasade Sarvatukhanam Anirasyo Chetaso Yashu Bhakti Varya Vachishkate Tvayopa Pukta Shakanda Vasalankara Charchitaha Uchishta Bojino Dasya Savamayam Jayimahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasada Ki Gaura Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Please come take prasadam. Hari Haribo. Did anybody make prasadam? Yes. Radhakripa Prabhu, you didn't make anything? Avantika, pancakes?
Just
everyone learn to make pakora? Did you all learn to make pakora?
Yes, Maharaj, they did. They did.
How about karunga potato?
Yes.
Yeah, Avantika cooked that one.
Really? Okay, I'm coming over. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpadrusha Kripasinabhevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Anantakoti Vishnaviniki Jai Gaur Premanande. Can everyone please come off mute and say Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama.
Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Nitai Gauranga.
Nitai Gauranga.
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 Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare Bol.
Gaura Premanande. Hare Hare.